The weight arrives gradually, almost imperceptibly at first. Connection becomes something you carry, rather than something that lifts you. Messages go unanswered not out of malice, but exhaustion. Invitations fade into background noise. The phone transforms into an archive of relationships that once held meaning, now just names illuminated on a screen. Peace and loneliness share the same quiet features, making it impossible to distinguish which one sits beside you in the stillness. There's no dramatic ending, no betrayal that marks the boundary between before and after. Colors simply lose their vibrancy, fading slowly like fabric left too long in sunlight. Background becomes foreground as you realize your role in others' narratives has diminished to almost nothing. Strangely, this invisibility brings relief. No explanations required for the silence, the shifting moods, the carefully maintained distance. Existence without performance becomes possible. Breath comes easier without pretense, and something about that feels pure. Energy transforms into currency. Each conversation, an investment that must yield returns. Too many smiles have preceded gossip. Too many friendships have dissolved over misunderstandings barely worth remembering. Promises evaporate without reason or warning. Caution replaces openness. Selectivity replaces availability. Distance replaces immediate presence. Not coldness, but weariness. The exhaustion of reaching out first, of deciphering contradictory signals, of giving without being truly seen. Eventually, a realization arrives. Perhaps ease lives not in accumulating more people, but in releasing expectations. Solitude carries a brutal honesty. When noise recedes, what remains are the thoughts long avoided, the echo of interior voices, the small ache of invisibility, the unexpected comfort of having no audience to satisfy. Self-knowledge deepens in ways crowds never permitted. What brings calm becomes clear. What depletes energy reveals itself. Authentic beliefs emerge when no one stands ready to agree or contradict. Within that silence, understanding grows. Perhaps solitude functions as classroom rather than punishment. Perhaps being friendless represents not failure, but the space where genuine self-encounter finally becomes possible. Distance has origins. Trust doesn't vanish overnight through conscious decision. It erodes slowly through moments that seemed insignificant at the time. Secrets shared and distorted. Friendships that disappeared precisely when they mattered most. People who spoke of forever but departed quietly mid-crisis. These experiences teach not hatred or isolation, but self-protection. Boundaries rise quietly, not as walls, but as necessary demarcations. Independence becomes the comfortable label, though underneath lurks fear dressed in strength's clothing. Constant connection defines this era. Notifications, followers, updates, the simulation of closeness. Yet understanding has never felt more elusive. Everyone speaks while no one listens. Everyone watches while no one truly sees. The more information shared, the more invisible the sharer becomes. A strange paradox emerges. Cultural pressure demands self-exposure. But the moment vulnerability appears, personhood transforms into product. Some simply withdraw. Posting ceases. Performance stops. Friendship as competition loses appeal. Quiet replaces noise. Depth replaces display. Reality replaces recognition. Society labels them loners, but perhaps they've merely found freedom. Extended solitude rewires the need for constant validation. Self-comfort becomes learned skill. Emotions can be inhabited, rather than escaped. The realization arrives that some of the most profound loneliness occurs in crowded rooms. Details previously overlooked come into focus. Sunlight's angle across a surface. the particular quality of pre-sleep stillness, the sound of one's own breathing. When external volume decreases, simplicity emerges. Calm becomes available. Sufficiency reveals itself. Gratitude surfaces unexpectedly, not for others, but for having survived every season alone while still finding beauty within it. Yet some nights the silence amplifies. Images of others laughing together trigger an interior whisper. Maybe something important is being missed. The truth remains that human connection constitutes fundamental need, even for those claiming otherwise. The quiet ache signals not weakness, but the heart's persistent desire to be witnessed. Perhaps someday it will be, by someone who doesn't demand performance, who doesn't confuse stillness with indifference, who understands that solitude was never arrogance, but healing. Understanding deepens. Being surrounded by friends doesn't guarantee connection, just as being alone doesn't guarantee loneliness. Isolation differs from peace. Avoidance differs from acceptance. Escaping people differs from outgrowing them. Sometimes friendlessness represents not world rejection, but self-alignment. When attempts to fit into draining circles cease, personal gravity forms. Eventually the right people, those speaking the same quiet language, arrive not through searching but because peace itself becomes beacon. Not having friends doesn't indicate brokenness. It signals transition between versions of self. Old patterns shed, old energies outgrow, comfort develops in one's own presence. Solitude can function as sacred space, territory for rebuilding what the world once depleted. Moments will arrive, carrying nostalgia for laughter, late-night calls, the warmth of belonging. But perhaps right now, belonging to others isn't the assignment. The assignment is belonging to self. Eventually, perspective shifts. This friendless season wasn't emptiness, but pause, reset, quiet reminder that worth never depended on who stayed or departed. New people will eventually appear, but differently, softer, more honest. Friendship won't be pursued from loneliness, but chosen from peace. When that happens, rare understanding emerges. Sometimes solitude isn't connection's absence, but its preparation. If life feels quiet now, if meals and walks and thoughts are experienced alone, rushing to fix it isn't necessary. Not all silence equals sadness. Not all distance equals loss. Sometimes being friendless is how the soul remembers what wholeness feels like on its own terms.